皆さんこんにちは、なるです。本編を見たい方は YouTube のチャプター機能からスキップしてください。今日はバトル BC6 の日本人出場選手について Talks で話しているところを翻訳しました。主にハートさん、トリグリさん、ドラ右さんについて話しています。こちらが今回大会に出場された日本人選手や有名な海外選手です。結果は右のようになりました。今回も英単語についての解説をつけています。よかったら見てください。それではどうぞ。
First comment on Hurt. Yo, that is an A button snake.
Yes, sir.
A button snake.
Yeah, double jump nair.
I needed Marcus to hear that. Like, that's an A button snake. There is two different kinds of snake in this world, and it has nothing to do with viability. They're both good. There's B button snakes and there's A button snake. Hurt is an A button snake.
I think that's so important because I think Snake, you need to be able to switch gears between being B and A for sure. In certain matchups and against certain player and character specifically, you can't be a B button Snake every single time because there are characters that just destroy that strategy. There's not many of them, but when it does happen, you better know the Kung Fu, man. You better know how to do a little QCQ, close quarter combat. Hey, I did it. Right. Got it. Nailed it.
Yep,
sure did.
You guys.
Sure did.
That's great.
Basically, I think A button snake, it correlates with like reads and confidence, some sort of like, like really having a grip on your opponent. And it showed a lot. Walking up and up tilting someone's spot dodge, doing something very unsafe by the numbers, like a landing back air, but them things landed every time. He was landing moves every time that I would die for if I was playing Snake. So like, the double jump aerials where they're jumping into it, like
so sick.
He knows what he's doing. That A button knows what it's doing, bro.
Hurt was ranked top 20. I think even then people were kind of questioning it because I think like above mute ace, you know what I'm saying? Like kind of crazy territory. So I think people question that a little bit. But I love when a player comes through and improves their rank or outshines people when people don't think they will. I think that Hurt did exactly that. I mean, won the tournament confidently to say the least. Didn't drop a set. Didn't drop a set.
Hurt is definitely great at that. Like, despite being an A button snake, he still had a really smooth flow chart for the ledge trapping with the grenades. Like, it was very deliberate, very specific. And he's playing against characters that in a weird way require the A button. And by weird way, I say, like, when I think of like Dora Migi versus Hurt, you weirdly need to be A button despite not being able to close the gap that easily. So you really have to manage your shield health and all that stuff, which I think a lot of Snake players are good at because they're very grounded. They're always damaging their own shield. So Hurt was naturally really good at that, but he was very good at closing the gap, hitting super hard with the A button when he did get in. And with Spargo, it's kind of similar where a very general one of the styles isn't going to work either, but he really made the most of his normals this last weekend. It's like when I watched Doramigi versus Hurt, he took stocks, like the last stock with up tilt, I think every single game 3-0. Just patient, just waiting it out. And like, I don't know. His pressure was really ridiculous and not in like a Spargo or Light way. It was mostly like a presence and confidence kind of way without like being actively like crazy, like mashing or like, pressuring you. Like it was more like a mental thing, which is really interesting to see happen to a player like Spargo because Spargo's the type of player that's so fast and like, I don't care about you type of way. Like I'm going to do this and you're not going to stop me. But Hurt manages his shield so well. He was so confident. He got Spargo to play really defensive in like a panic type of way. Spargo was trading a lot. Hurt's recoveries were amazing. Like, it was just like really clean gameplay. I wish I could talk about it a little bit more in depth, but I don't want to ramble too long. Like I have a lot of thoughts on like Spargo's counter picks and maybe even if he should go Aegis next time. Corrin might not be able to play. But yeah, it's difficult. I think every top player has had a little bit of Snake struggle at least some point throughout Ultimate. Like every player has struggled. Like a lot of the household names have a blemish in their record versus Snake in some way or another. So he's a character that's here to stay, and he has been since day one for sure.
You know the craziest thing about his run to me? His hardest set was with Toriguri.
Gary, Marcus, we were talking. We were so
No.
TG, bro. TG is the GOAT. Come on now.
I gotta give it up. Like, okay, so backstory, because Haz was about to say it. When Toriguri beat Leo, I was tight. Like, I was so angry because very often does it happen where, like, someone who plays, like, a lower tier character, they get the upset, they lose their next 2 sets.
Yeah, it wasn't like that. Yeah.
Bro, I'm just robbed of Leo versus Hurt. Like, and then Hurt went up 2-0 versus TG, and I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Then TG won a game, and I said, wait, hold on. Then he took another one. I said, oh, hold on, this is turning into a set, bro. That game.
Both his losses were game 5.
Crazy.
Yoshidora as well.
That was a crazy game. That might have been my favorite set no, Spargo Yoshidora was really.
I actually think he was very prepared for his matches, and he wasn't playing the same he plays when I watch a lot of his highlights over the last year or so. He actually, I would say it's a combination of improvement and actually deliberately playing the matchups he was playing. He wasn't just doing a normal banjo flowchart in some of the situations. I think versus Leo was getting hit by the, this is what I do, can you stop it? But it was very interesting. Like, my banjo's pretty good. It is not as good as Toriguri's at all. But he was playing a lot of things so differently than I would have. And I just loved that. Like, it was so interesting. Like, think of how far he went in the tournament without relying on any down throw confirms for a lot of those sets, if not every single set. Like, his flowchart was great. He had a specific ledge trap thing. He had so much shield damage with the grenades. He was so good in the Breagle Blaster stance. Usually when I'm in that stance, if I'm not doing KFC, the cancel, I don't want to be in that stance. But he wasn't doing it nearly as much as he was just moving with it really well. Like rising ones, going back and forth, dropping through platforms, using all of his jumps. He was genuinely just pressuring with Breagle Blaster. Like, that's not tech. Like, that's not tech. Which is really, really cool. And I talk with a lot of great banjo players, and they've really helped me a lot when it comes to understanding and playing him when I play him for fun. And they had so much confidence in Breagle Blaster that I really didn't. I genuinely thought it was like a pretty bad stance outside of the tech and the confirms that they had. But Toriguri had more value in the stance than KFC. He would do KFC up close, and he was doing it, but it's a lot of the time it's like a win more thing rather than like, this is how I become a competitive character, which is so interesting. His wave bounces with the grenade are on point. He's always been super good at wave bouncing pretty much everything just because he's that guy.
Right.
But yeah, like the way he won and the way he set up his win conditions were so outside of like a general banjo gameplay. It wasn't down throw. He's this one's not too new for him, but he's so good at setting people on the platform and getting the side Bs, the Wonder Wings, because you have really no choice but to die once you get sent to the platform. But yeah, it was just beautiful gameplay, like a really great mix of just general basic fundamentals and the tech and being patient, not forcing any kills or anything. Like right there, even just these clips we're watching, like it's very, very like small things that really add up. And like the movement is so good.
Quick question. Have we explained KFC on the podcast before? Like the banjo? Okay, why don't you explain it real quick? Because you said you dropped it in there, but let's catch everyone up.
So it's called Kazooie Fast Cancel, and it involves putting Kazooie away from the neutral B stance faster than normal, which means if you pop them up with the shot, you can get smash attacks, you can get Wonder Wing. So the potential is pretty ridiculous because it really helps because Banjo usually doesn't do ridiculous damage, and he also will have a hard time killing. But now he has just a straight up win condition. Like if you get hit by this, you lose at like mid percent. So I thought it was a really big deal for me to learn when I was playing, and it's really difficult, like frame perfect, but I started to get it. And the interesting thing about Toriguri is he can do it at a whim, but he's not like locked in trying to do it. Like he's just doing it if the opportunity presents itself, and he's just that good with Banjo. It's not even about the tech. That the tech is not why he was doing so well at Battle BC. It's like barely even relevant. He's just that comfortable with the character.
I was gonna say, it kind of circles back to what you're saying about Sephiroth and playing your characters in tournaments and how it hardens them and how it makes you better with them. And like tech obviously is a piece of that puzzle, but like you said, or if you're trying to learn Banjo and you're trying to learn tech, you tunnel vision that shit initially because you're trying to learn it and you're trying to implement it and trying to see where it fits in. Whereas what you're saying with him is it naturally fits into his game flow rather than, oh, he's trying to fit this tech in where it applies. Versus it just naturally working out.
It's more like a part of his moveset rather than like the main reason he needs the win condition or something like that. Which reminds me of like with Diddy, I have so many specific things, and when I do them, like I don't think twice about it, especially in tournament. It's just I've been practicing this for hours and years or whatever. Like if the opportunity presents itself, I'll take it, but I don't need it to win. And it's so nice to see that with Banjo because obviously he's lower on the tier list. And seeing him be able to win with that flexibility, and he doesn't need something specific to win. Like it's kind of like Hurt. Like he just super solid neutral, like has a flow chart for his ledge trapping and all that stuff, and takes advantage of Banjo's weight and recovery and really patient and disadvantage. It's just beautiful gameplay. Like he'll take F tilts all day. Like he's patient with getting his damage and his kills. Like he's so great at like sneaking in an up tilt to catch a ledge jump, which is something I've always kind of stole from him because it has really little end lag. He'll throw out the up tilt, and if you jump into it, you die super early. But if you don't, he's repositioning. Down tilt's kind of like a advantage state move that he eventually throws in there once he starts breaking at your defense. Dude, it's just amazing. Doesn't dash attack too much, but when he does, it makes an impact. I was dash attacking a lot as like a reactionary whiff punish thing. So it was interesting to see someone not dash attack too much for damage or kills. Like, he was getting a lot of parries. Up smash was getting him a lot of kills, whether it was out of shield or parry. He was playing so well, and his positioning was so well with his neutral Bs and down Bs and his shield pressure that he was catching the double jumps with the big neutral airs. He was just so great at breaking down when someone's still playing grounded, when someone's going to be quick to burn a double jump into the neutral air. Like he really wasn't forcing anything, and it just, dude, I can go on and on. Like Banjo's a really sick character. Like I really like the way the character flows when he's winning is really cool, and he's improved it so much to where he's just making Banjo a normal character. Like he doesn't need something crazy to win. He doesn't need to break the boundaries of the game or anything like that. Like he's just getting some solid reads. He's setting up his shield pressure, his positioning. Like he's so comfortable. It's beautiful to watch. The occasional hard read with like popping base mage up with the egg, dashing forward, F smashing the air dodge. Like he has a bit of everything. He'll play neutral all day, but if he has a read, he'll take it. If he has to KFC, he will. All that stuff. Like I could go on forever. Like the gameplay's amazing. He'll use all 5 Wonder Wings to recover if he has to, of course. Like he doesn't need the platforms to always get a kill. Like, but yeah, I wish he didn't drop shield versus Yoshi's back air game 5 versus but he did. Sorry, y'all probably hate me right now.
Tori Goat Mom, no, loved it. No, that was great. You couldn't say more. I mean, honestly, let's just pass the rock around here. Marcus, one of your goats, Dora Meigs. Speedrun legend? Min speedrunning characters? So ridiculous, man.
If you get hit, you die.
Mm-hmm.
She is a fighting game character, I think is what we need to consider.
Oh, true. Technically.
People were saying that.
Think about it.
They were like, do y'all consider her a fighting game character? I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Never thought about it.
Aside from killing people at 0, she plays very the opposite of the rest of the fighting game guys.
Yeah. There is one similarity, and it is being messed up.
I actually kind of expected him to do this well, especially once I saw some of the dropouts. I really wanted to see him versus like Sonics or see him versus Light, just to see how he approached those matchups, because I know that most North American minmins really don't like fighting Fox. At least I don't know how they feel about Sonic. I know Sonic thinks that Sonic does really well, and I could agree. I think there are some interesting ways that Sonic can approach some of Minmin's blind spots and really take her pretty far off stage and make recovering pretty tough for her. And some of the ways he can abuse invincibility to go through some of the arm timing. So there's some things definitely that I think Sonic could do. But anyway, once I saw most of the people like drop out, I was like, I could see bro winning the event. Mostly because I haven't really seen Spargo fight a Minmin in a really long time. The last time I saw him like practicing versus one was at the last summit. He was playing Proto, and he was kind of struggling. So I think Dora is like easily the best Minmin that we've ever seen. I don't think it's close. And I've thought that for a long time. But he's still a kid in some ways, you know? He still has that little kid, like...
Everything you're saying, you don't have to explain to me. I know exactly what you mean. I'm probably going to say the same stuff.
He can take a lot of unnecessary risks, and he ends up getting reversaled a lot. And if he thinks he's right, he's just going to send it, which has, like, you know, it has its merits, but... Especially on Minmin, because if you are right on her, usually you'll just end up taking someone's stock. You only have to guess right about 2 or 3 times. Like, once you get that initial hit, you guess right 2 more times, you might just take their stock. So it was super cool to see how North America dealt with him, because I know he does really well in Japan. And I know when Zombo went to Japan, he actually played Dormigi, and he kind of got... I mean, the games were close, but he lost 3-0, if I recall correctly. And then I know Dora also beat Gluto, who was at Battle of BC. Well, was Gluto really at Battle of BC? But anyway, but he also beat Gluto when Gluto was in Japan. So I felt pretty strongly about like his skill level. Like he's beating Zamba, he's taking sets off Akola, he's beaten a bunch of these players. But I thought his biggest hurdle was going to actually be Base Mage, which is funny because that is what a lot of people consider to be Minmin's worst matchup, Jigglypuff, and Base Mage has a ton of experience in the matchup. Very well practiced. I rarely see him lose games in that matchup. So when I saw they had to play, I was like, bro, ain't no way. Like, this is Sonic's fault. Like, what is going on?
This is the one killer,
yeah, right? So I loaded up. I was like, all right, man, this is about to be rough. And it was in the way that it normally is. But again, with Minmin, as long as you're right, she kind of has like that Luigi-esque portion to her where the matchup may be a little rough, but the damage output is so ridiculous. The situation she can put you in is so ridiculous. The way she abuses your resources and like really makes you have to choose, like just make decisions on the fly based on like awful positioning can be really tough. And I think Dora's easily the best at abusing that. That's why you could see like that Riddle set. It was just a giga speed run some of the games. But once he beat Base Mage, I was like, all right, we're in the clear. Minmin versus Snake, we're chilling. And then the set started.
Hurt has never lost to Dormigi.
Hurt has never lost to him, right? I saw that. I was like, I mean, whatever. Like what's really the reasoning? Like, are they close sets? Like, what's going on? Does Hurt just have a handle on him? I saw the set start. Hurt pulled a grenade. Dormigi pressed Nair and hit the grenade and lost the stock. And I said, oh no, this. I now see why he's never beaten him. This set is just, it's going to be rough. It's going to be a brutal set. And some of his hit,
it was pretty rough.
Yeah, some of the ways he was, like, he burned his double jump in some rough spots where he could lose his stock. He would try to control, like, space with the arms while a grenade was under his foot, which is something that is good on Hurt because you need to have really good grenade placement and make things kind of awkward so Minmin can't just control the flow of the game the entire time. But he would just jump into grenades. Some of his moves were not the best timed. He was rolling a lot. He did a lot of landing directional air dodge, like try to mix up, but it still ended up in him losing his stock. So I think like when I was watching that set, I was like, I see. This is some of the things, and I think there's a lot of value in watching that specific set for Dora Migi. I think if you really sits there, have someone go through it and like talk to him about like
Yeah.
why these decisions or why your timings weren't the best in these situations, then I think it could lead to a lot of growth because he may like look at some situations a little bit differently instead, you know. But that was mostly what I expected. I already knew that he was exploding people on hit, so it wasn't like a surprise to me. I am glad that we're able to see a more aggressive Min because I think people have this like idea that Min is like, she is a zoner, but I think she's a lot more flexible than people think. I think her nair is just a really ridiculous button. She has down tilt. She has one of the best dash attacks in the game. So she can fight up close. She has a lot of cross up potential. She has a lot of combo potential off of some of those moves. Like at early percents, dash attack will pretty much always put you in a tech chase as long as you're not a floaty, so you can get a lot of damage off of that. Sometimes even stocks just off a raw dash attack. And if you're at the ledge, you can just put them in a 50-50 off of that. If like you dash attack them and they jump and you press jump ram, they lose their jump, they could just lose their stock right there, right? So she has a lot of like hill potential off of some of her close combat moves. Even her jab at low percents, the gentleman will put you in attack as well. So I think there was just a lot of things put on display that that kind of like reshaped the way that people saw Min. I'm sure most people still think she's like super lame, which is like whatever, right? But because she's corny. Like, you got to give that up. You know, you're getting blasted from across the stage. You get in. It kind of has that Pac-Man feel. Like you finally get in, and then she just like hits you with like
a harder situation or something.
Yeah, and then you just lose your stock, and you're like, well, what the heck? Like, where am I supposed to be? Sometimes she has that feel to her. But it was just really cool to see him perform, and I'm glad because he's really young. It's like 15 or something, or 14, turning 15, something like that. Yeah. So there's a lot of room for growth and improvement, a lot of time, and I don't know. I'm excited to see where he goes from here for sure.
I wanted to say I appreciate Marx's analysis of Dora Migi's play. I noticed some things like that too, and you can compare it to so many successful players over the years. His play style has a very specific flow and pacing, and it's very dominant. It's very oppressive. It's very confident. He's very willing to match everyone's play style or pacing, and just win in whatever way they choose to lose. He's down for them to lose that way, and Hurt was very incredible at dealing with that. A lot of Dora Migi's decision making were at the same timings, whether it's disadvantage, neutral, or advantage. And it kind of reminds me of Spargo, and Hurt was also very successful against Spargo in the same way. A lot of Spargo's timings are very similar. He's very confident. He's very oppressive. But when you take that confidence away, not only do these young players keep playing at that same pacing they always play at, but they have a sense of fear with it. The spot dodges start happening. They start getting hit by the same thing over and over. And they kind of start brute forcing it because they're so confident in that flow chart that usually helps them win. Spargo has a lot more variance to it, of course. He has so much experience, and he's like a seasoned veteran as a teenager already. But it still applies to like a lot of players, young and old, of things they rely on and stuff like that. But yeah, Dora Migi's play was really interesting from that perspective because it was kind of like watching like riddles in the sense of, I'm going to play super fast. When I hit you, you're going to die, and we're going to move on to the next set. And even if there's small hiccups along the road in this set, I'm going to keep doing it. And it's usually going to be in Min / Dora Migi's favor. So that's really interesting. Seeing like the constant up tilts on the air dodges and like all that type of stuff. And the interesting thing about players like this is it's an easy fix a lot of the time, which is why they're so terrifying. Like if the veterans have to beat them this way, then what are they going to do when they simply stop?
Yep.
It is
Right.
very, very scary. And it's why, you know, this is a bit of a messed up example. But think all the way back then to Mars versus Spargo at that CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spargo, all you had to do is, it's just, there's a couple small things, and now you're Spargo. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's scary about a lot of these players is there's going to be one day where they get a little bit more maturity and discipline in their gameplay, and beating them is going to be the hardest thing on the planet. And there's so many players like that have either gone through that process already, are still going through it, or will go through it. And Dora Migi is one of the best examples based off of that BC experience, where it's such a crazy, intense mix of strengths and weaknesses as a player, like some of the craziest strengths, but some very glaring weaknesses. I think Min Min has a bit of Min Min's to blame a little bit as well. But it's very interesting. Like, there's a lot of room for growth, like Marcus has been saying, and especially as a Min player himself, I really appreciate his analysis, and I noticed a lot of it in my own way as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, it's kind of weird because when I was watching, it kind of reminded me of Young Yu, and I know he's on
I
Min
think
Min.
that's why I'm saying what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, dude, I remember when Gavin used to do this. Like, oh,
Yeah.
gosh, like,
You either lose immediately or I lose in the same habit I always lose or something.
yeah, because I just, like, it just reminded me of, like, you versus DeBuzz. That's kind of what, like, Dora Migi versus Hurt felt like.
Yeah.
Where it was just this one player who's like, oh, you think you're going to play at this pacing? Okay.
Yeah, but they don't change the pace.
And then he just cooks you over and over, and you're like, bro, like, I just got to do it better. Like, if I'm better at it, like, hey, I'm better than you, so I just got to do it better, and then let's lock in. And then you lose, and you're like,
yeah,
what the heck? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I just noticed that, but that's a good thing if reminding.
Easy fix, and it means they will be so much more dangerous than they already are in the blink of an eye. One day, Dora Migi versus Hurt is going to be crazy dominant in Dora Migi's favor.
Yep.
A flip will be switched. Maybe they'll eventually start to go back and forth after that, but stuff like that happens with these young and upcoming players with like crazy like just strengths in their gameplay.
Sorry, Gab, I didn't know you had more to say. I was trying to toss to the Patreon and get us out of here. Gavin was gabbing today.
Yeah, I
love
mean,
that shit.
Toriguri did fantastic. Yoshidora is like a very...
Goodness gracious, that dude's good.
Yeah.
Yoshidora is very different than everything else we talked about, where he's just... It's like we always say, like, he's just a businessman. He's just a business Yoshi.
He's
like,
a business
he plugs in, he wins. Game 5 last hit, 3-0, whatever.
He only lost to Spargo, right?
Yeah. He's here to play, bro, and Spargo had almost got reverse 3-0'd, I think. So,
it's getting there.
That set was good. That was a good set.
He has consistent defense. He has consistent tech chases. His damage output is obviously very high. He doesn't overextend on his edge guarding or his ledge trapping. He's just very just seasoned veteran of the character, and he seems so calm and collected as a competitor as well, which I think is a big advantage to his playstyle and his character and everything. Like, it's hard to tell when in person, like in his face and his gameplay. It's very hard to ever see if he's flustered, which I think is very impressive.
それでは今日の単語を見ていきましょう。have nothing to do with 何々と関係がない。例文。これは動画からなんですが、It has nothing to do with viability, but A button snake and B button snake are both good. 使えるかどうかに関係なく、A ボタンスネーク、B ボタンスネーク、どっちもいい。B button。B 技をよく使う人やキャラのことを表します。例文。Snake is a B button character. スネークは B ボタンキャラクターだ。Trade。 お互いに攻撃が当たること。When you trade with snake, it usually favors snake since he's heavy. 対スネークでお互いに攻撃が当たると、スネークが重いため、大抵はスネークが有利に働く。Counter pick。これは日本語でもステージとかで使うと思うんですけど、有利になるためにキャラやステージを選ぶこと。例文 He chose Cloud as a counter pick against Steve. 彼はスティーブに被せてクラウドを選んだ。Upset。これも日本語で浸透してると思うんですけど、格上の選手に勝つこと。例文 He got upset by an unknown player. 彼は無名な選手にアップセットを起こされた。これはアップセットを起こされた側ですね。アップセットを起こした方は He upset a famous player. 彼は有名な選手にアップセットを起こした。Game 5。フルセット。5本目のことですね。で、例文。これはよく実況で聞くんですけど、フルセットで最後の一撃で勝者が決まるっていう時に Game 5 Last Hit Situation。フルセット最後の一撃で決まります。これよく英語の実況で聞きます。Have a hard time。なかなかできない。My sheik always has a hard time killing。私のシークはいつもなかなか撃墜ができない。Zoner。ゾーニングをするキャラのこと。例文。Samus is a typical zoner。サムスはゾーニングをする典型的なキャラです。はい、今日はここまでです。見てくださった皆さんありがとうございました。それでは次の動画でお会いしましょう。バイバイ。